Thank you very much to Leigh for becoming a member of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. Now, if you'd like to become a member and support the work that I do, you can do for as little as £1 a month by clicking the join button below this video. But to let you guys know about the live streams this week, I'm going to be streaming 3 games. On Thursday the 15th, I'll be streaming Saints vs Catalans. On Friday the 16th, I'll be streaming Leeds vs Hull FC. And on Sunday the 18th, I'll be streaming Wakefield vs Warrington. So if you'd like to stop by, interact with some of the cool and groovy folks in the live stream chat. You've got people like Seb and Alex and Kieran and Trent over in Australia. A bunch of other people that interact on a regular basis. Got a nice little community going on there, which is great to see, and it's greatly appreciated. Feel free to stop by at the weekend and interact with some people over Rugby League. So yeah, that's my spiel, but let's crack on with the video. So I've left a recap of last round's predictions up on the screen for you guys to check out, as well as how I've done over the course of the season so far. Now, if you guys have your own predictions, please do let me know in the comment section down below. You guys are probably doing better than me. You guys have probably had more 6s than me, which is just great. It's just great. But let's crack on with the first game of this week. Kicking things off, we have St. Helens taking on the Catalans Dragons. So I think this could be a very tricky game to predict, since both teams, they do have struggles kind of all over at the moment. There are some aspects to each of their games that are a little bit stronger than others, but they kind of both have issues across the board. Now, one benefit for Saints this week is that they've just had a week off. That's going to be a point that I'll make about all teams in those situations compared to Challenge Cup semi-final opponents. They've just had a week off. Catalans have spent 80 minutes in blistering hot weather getting beaten up by Hull Kingston Rovers. Beaten up might be a bit harsh to some. I thought they were beaten up, especially early periods in the second half for what felt like 15 minutes. Probably felt like an eternity to Catalans, but just constantly pinned back behind their own 30, 20, and sometimes 10 for multiple tackles in the set, barely getting out their own end until Hull Kingston Rovers put up points, and then they were able to go down the other end. That kind of just killed them off. They were beaten up through the middle easily. I feel like the only thing Saints actually need to do this week are a few of the basics. 1 is just complete sets. 2 is kick long. 3, stay disciplined. That is it, the basics. Catalans, to me, feel like a very easy team to pin back. We saw the Robins do it. Now, bear in mind, the Robins are great at pinning all teams back, by the way, so that's not like an outlier. They know how to do that anyway. But then Leigh, the week before, they found it very easy to do that. Given the size that Catalans have, it's quite easy to pin them back, which is a little bit concerning. Yes, they've still improved over what they were, let's say, a month and a half ago, that sort of range. But they're a bit too easy to pin back, and I think Saints can build enough pressure. And defensively, I think Saints are a strong enough team to contain what Catalans can do in possession. Now, for Saints, I'm not sure what Wellens are going to do this week. Is he the type of head coach to panic? I don't think so. I think when he dropped Lomax, I think that was based on performance, not a panic to have to fix things, or at least improve things. I don't think it was a panic. I think it was done with some actual thought into it. But is he going to keep Whitby at 7? Does Mbai join the halves? Does Lomax stay in the squad but on the bench? Does Lomax start? Is Wellesby at 6? Is Saylor dropped? As I think it was Wilkin that John Wilkin that suggested it, possibly. What does Wellens do? What spine is going to get the best production out of Saints? I've got no idea. I don't think Wellens has an idea. I don't even think Saints fans have an idea. It's just a complete mess in the spine at the moment for Saints. So in terms of attacking productivity, it's questionable at the moment. They can't find any consistency offensively, but I think defensively, they're a tough team to break down. There's a couple games where they've conceded a few too many points, but typically this season, I think defences remain their constant best asset. Catalans just look really slow to watch as well in possession. For the guys they've got in that team, they look too slow to me. I also think that the kicking game isn't particularly good. Even with Farge and Kiri at 6 and 7, the kicking game is not good enough for me. The forwards haven't been particularly dominant or as much or as dominant as I was hoping or expecting that they'd be. There's some great carries in there, here and there, that you'll see from Pangai Jr., Navarrete, Bousquet, but it's few and far between. It's not effective enough for what I expect from them. Chris Satai as well, forgot about him. I get the feeling this could be a tight game, and it could easily, I could easily be wrong with this one. I think it'll be a tight game, but quite low quality. So I'm going to have to go with the only thing that feels most reliable to me, and that is Saints as a defensive unit. And that's kind of the way I'm leaning. So a tight game, low quality, but I'm leaning towards Saints defence. So I'm going to go with St. Helens 18, Catalans Dragons 12. Next up, we have the Wigan Warriors taking on the Leigh Leopards. Now, Leigh already defied expectations in round 1 with the 1-0 victory. Both sides are on a great win streak at the moment in Super League. Of course, Leigh lost at the weekend in the Challenge Cup, but Super League specifically, Wigan are on a 5-game win streak, Leigh are on 4. However, with Wigan, they have been on the stronger, or tougher run of games, I should say. They beat Hull Kingston Rovers, St. Helens, Hull FC, and Warrington in that time. One of the victories, I think, was against Salford as well, if I'm not mistaken, but it was against an easier opponent. They've had the tougher run. Leigh have had some tough games in there, but Wigan have had a stronger win streak and have had a tougher run. One factor for Leigh this week, I think, is going to be the response from the Challenge Cup semi-final. What kind of response are we going to get? So there's a few ways of looking at it. One, it could be seen as like a cloud over their heads. This opportunity is now gone. We've missed out on another trip to Wembley. We've missed out on silverware. And it's fresh off the mind. Wigan, they had that experience a little while ago, but that's kind of died down and they would have, to a degree, moved on from that. Whereas this is fresh in the minds of Leigh players. But then the flip side to that and the positive is the aggressive response, which I'm hoping is what we see from Leigh this week. The aggressive response. We can't win this trophy anymore. We've got two more that we can win. We are going to get them. And that starts now with a response off the back of losing out on a trophy. So that's the Leigh that I hope, with a kind of dog mentality that we're losing that one. Okay, well, we'll take the final 2 that we've got available. I think Leigh have been competing quite well through the middle recently. I think it was a little bit up and down to start the season, and I had my concerns because of the size of the pack, especially at the start of the season, but over the last few weeks, they've competed through the middle a lot better. Against Warrington, I don't think they were good enough, but in weeks prior, I think they were doing a pretty good job, especially with post-contact meters, actually. They got some quick play of the balls, a lot of offloads, but I think the post-contact meters from guys like Trout, from Mulhern, Offengawi since he came in, I think Liu's been carrying a little bit stronger as well. They've had a big impact in the forwards for the Leopards. The matchup that I keep thinking about, though, is Nsemba versus O'Brien over on the left-hand side. So the left edge attack offensively for Wigan, right edge defensively for Leigh. O'Brien, quite a few times. We saw it against Warrington. We saw it against, I think, Wigan in round 1. We've seen it against a few other opponents this season. Leigh fans will recognise this. O'Brien being knocked onto his backside. Up against a big guy, typically the back rower over on the left, can get knocked onto his backside. And I think Nsemba versus O'Brien will be the target. And I think could be under a lot of pressure today. And I think the clarity, how clean and efficient Wigan are down that left side anyway, is going to put Leigh under a lot of pressure. So that's going to be the trickiest area for Leigh to contain. Also mentioning that Wigan did have an extra week off compared to Leigh, they would be fresh this week, especially in the middle. I think Leigh will compete well this week, but I can't look past the strength of Wigan through the middle, the discipline, the kicking game from Smith, the defensive resilience, the organisation, not just the kicking game, but overall organisation, the attacking effectiveness, how quick they are when they spread the ball. Leigh are one of the best defensive scrambling teams in the competition. They are right up there. They bust a gut constantly to shift across and shut you down. I think they'll do that a ton of times this weekend, but Wigan just, I was going to say always, because it hasn't been always this year, but most of the time will find a way to break that down at some point. I hope we get a great response from Leigh this week. I really do. I think they will make it tricky and frustrating at times, but I cannot look past Wigan in all the qualities they've got added up over 80 minutes. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with Wigan Warriors 22, Leigh Leopards 10. Next up, we have the Leeds Rhinos taking on Hull FC. These are two sides that I think have been given a bit of a bad rap this season. I don't think people are giving them enough credit and are either just aren't recognising, maybe they're seeing things differently to me, and that's fine, or they're just not willing to give Hull FC and or Leeds any credit for how good, and again that's my perspective, how good they've been this season. I think as a bare minimum, both these teams have been good. Maybe they've had bad games, bad stints, bad performances, but overall, minimum, both these teams have been good. On some occasions, they've been great. I think the first area to cover is the battle in the middle. Hull FC have looked strong this year through the middle, with Herman Sasa is playing sensationally this season as well. I think Aiden's been great for them. I think Ashworth has been very, very, very underrated. Who am I missing here? Liam Knight was a huge help when he came in as well. I think Asiata as well in the 13 role, whether he's a ball playing lock, loose forward, or a ball running 13. The forwards have done well. But Leeds, I think, have been not just stronger, I think Leeds are significantly stronger in the forwards. I think with Oledzki, with Palacia, with Gannon, with Jenkins, with Holroyd, God, who am I missing? Even McDonnell down the right edge. I think Leeds' forward pack has been brilliant this season. It feels like they've been getting quicker play the balls, more post-contact meters, more offloads as well. I'll get on to offloads in a second as well and why that's important. Obviously, we know why, but for Leeds in particular. When it comes to the backs, I think FC have more clarity in their kicking game. You know, obviously, you look at your number 7s, that's Jake Connor versus Aiden Caesar. In terms of more clarity in a kicking game, you'd normally lean towards Aiden Caesar, which is fine. I think they've had a lot of clarity. They like going down the left-hand side. They'll kick long, they'll chase, and they'll try and pin teams back. There's a little bit more clarity there. With Will Price in Hull FC side as well, I think it adds a lot of freedom for Caesar, for Cust over on the right, and I think it now makes them a more potent threat on both sides of the field when they're attacking. Now, two players I must mention for Leeds, and I mentioned this on a live stream, I think it was last weekend. Lockie Miller loves to do a lot of damage in the second phases, and that brings offloads back into it. If Leeds are getting constant offloads, giving him second phases. Now, of course, Harry Newman and Ash Hanley, they love that as well. They love, if they get caught in a cul-de-sac down the right or left edge, they'll cut back inside. They'll do a bit of damage in midfield. But Lockie Miller, get an offload to him, he'll do something with it. He'll certainly try. And then, for me, Jake Connor. Jake Connor is not getting enough praise. And I think what bothers me slightly is he was leading the Man of Steel race. I think he still is at the moment. Maybe others have been slightly better and the system's not perfect. But can we just give Jake Connor a bit of credit for how good he's been this year? Maybe he shouldn't be leading the Man of Steel leaderboard. But has he not been extremely valuable for Leeds? He's been kicking well. He's been tackling well. He's been organising well. He's been creating opportunities left, right and centre. Everything is going through and is being built from Jake Connor. He's not been the most pleasant person to witness over the last couple of years and to have to take in the rugby league space. But I've got no issues with giving credit where credit is due for Jake Connor being as brilliant as he has been this year. He is leading the way for the Leeds Rhinos. Defensively, Leeds are also the second best team in the comp. Second defensively. I've not heard anybody talk about that. It might have come up on social media, you guys might have seen it, but I'm not seeing anybody talk about how good Leeds are defensively. I think Hull's execution has been good this year. It's been great at times, been poor at times, but I think overall it's been good. It's a little bit up and down for me. So I think with the inconsistencies there in execution, I think they'll find ways to score, definitely. But I think they need to be almost perfect against such a great defensive side like Leeds. They can beat you up through the middle. Jake Connor will create opportunities. Lockie Miller will create opportunities. So will the guys on the edges. I think the forwards will win this battle. Jake Connor will create chances left, right and centre. He might get some assists this week. I wouldn't be surprised. And I think Leeds' fitness, their efforts, they're putting in 80-minute performances now. Or close to, which is what Brad Arthur wanted at the start of the season. So I'm going to go with Leeds Rhinos 24, Hull FC 12. Next up, we have Hull Kingston Rovers taking on Huddersfield Giants. Huddersfield are no longer a winless team. Get in. Now, hopefully, that means they come into this game with a bit of confidence. They were battered against Hull Kingston Rovers a few weeks back. It's not the only time they've been battered this year, but hopefully they come into this with a lot of confidence that we now know how to win a game. We are confident in the players that we have available. We took on a strong team in Hull FC, and we came out victorious. We battled well through the middle. We spread the ball well. We looked effective. We scrambled well defensively. Hopefully, they take a lot of confidence and have learnt a decent amount coming into this one. They put their strongest squad out against Hull FC and came up with the win. They actually looked like a better side, which is huge for them, because I think if they'd gone in with their strongest squad and it was just crushed, I think that would be so much more demoralising than what they've already been going through. You got your strongest team available and it's still not enough. It's still not enough, but the fact that they came out on the other side with a win, I think, is huge for them. Moving on to Hull KR, along with kind of attaching it to one of my biggest concerns for Huddersfield, but this is mainly praise for Hull Kingston Rovers, is I'm scared that the Giants might get trapped into the corners for a lot of the game. I don't think Hull KR are going to have an issue with going to the short side left to Mikey Lewis, kicking high into the back corners and just pinning whoever's back there. If it's Flanagan at one again, if it's Gagai at the back, if it's going to be Halsall on the opposite wing, whoever it's going to be at number one, it could be anyone. But I think Hull KR, they won't mind just getting into that grind, pinning teams into the back left corner and just wearing you down like they did against Catalans at the weekend. Once they build up enough pressure, once the game sort of opens up a bit more, they've made the forwards of the Giants have to do so much work in their own end, the backs as well. As soon as Hull KR get possession inside the middle third of the field, as soon as they spread that ball, I'm calling it. It's a try almost every time. Their ability to execute in the midfield is it second to none? Maybe. It's right up there. If you want to play it very safe, top three at worst. But when they spread the ball in the midfield, once they've been wearing teams down, it's very difficult to stop, and it's very unlikely that we won't see a try off the back of it, or at least something very close to a try, or ending up in dangerous field position. Now, as much as it was a great win for Huddersfield, it doesn't mean that they're fixed. It doesn't mean they're fixed. Now, Hull KR could easily put up 50 points this week and kind of shut that down since they move the ball around so well. I just think we'll see a bit more confidence, a big morale boost for Huddersfield, fresh legs obviously going into this one compared to Hull Kingston Rovers. I just think the defensive connections aren't there yet. Maybe if we keep seeing the scramble defence, they can shut down some opportunities on the edges. But it could be a high-scoring one. I'd like Huddersfield to just keep going, keep chipping away. But I think Hull KR, will be too strong for this one, quite clearly. So I'm going to go with Hull Kingston Rovers 38, Huddersfield Giants 10. Next up, we have Wakefield Trinity taking on the Warrington Wolves. Wakefield are another side that's had a week off, so with fresh legs and fresh bodies in the middle, that could be a major advantage for them going up against Warrington this week. Now, one thing I really like about Wakefield, and they've been like this since the start of the season, which is great to see, they don't care where they are on the field, they don't care who they're playing against, they don't care who the opponent has in their squad available, they don't care who's unavailable for themselves. Doesn't matter where they are on the field, they will shift it around anywhere, against anybody. I love that about Wakefield. They don't care who you are. They'll have a go. Now, the biggest con with that is that they do make mistakes. Either there's a knock-on in there somewhere, miscommunication, mistiming, skewed passes. Either it just goes out the back and it's a little bit wayward for a centre or Jowett at the back, or it goes into touch. There's a lot of mistakes that come with it, but I love their intent. I love that about Wakefield. But I think that could be an issue. I think they'll go at Warrington. They won't be afraid of them. They'll try and test them on the edges. Could be second tackle and they're on their own 30. They'll launch it out wide. But I think it will come with mistakes, and Warrington are a team that has a couple times this year punished teams for turning over the ball in dangerous field position. Warrington are capable of that, and they did that quite a few times against Leigh and sustained pressure quite a bit as well, because Leigh tried to do it and made some mistakes in midfield. With Wakefield's kicking game, that's been an issue for me recently. I think with Lino's kicking game, Truman's been back in, is it 1 week or two? It might just be the 1 week. Who else was playing in the halves? Pitt's played there once. There's somebody else I'm missing. I know I'm thinking somebody other than Russell. I can't remember his name, but there's somebody else in the halves. The placements of the kicks have not been particularly great from Wakefield. You go short side right. A lot of the times you go short side right to Lino, and he's just kicking straight up, as a lot of teams do. But it's like it's caught on the 20. Could easily put that behind the 10, easily right into the corner, and it's on the 20 or the 30. You're gifting easier field position than you need to, and there's no real contest. So I think the kicking game from Lino, long range as well, I think needs to be better. It needs to be more effective, and the placement needs to be better. So that's just, a few negatives there for Wakefield, but I do love their intent, the way that they can challenge teams through the middle. I think they'll put up a great fight this week, and I think they'll really test Warrington's edges. On to Warrington. There's been a lot of major injury struggles. Everyone's been through injury struggles this season so far, to a degree. Warrington, major injury struggles, but are actually performing quite well. Now, I didn't expect Sneed to be available for the Challenge Cup, by the way, so that's one factor I predicted us to lose. But his kicking game in particular, I think, was brilliant. His placement of kicks has already been one of the major improvements from when we had Drinkwater last season, from what we've seen from Ratchford and Leyland so far this season, even from George Williams when he's taken on that responsibility. But the technique on the kicks was different this week, because he'd kick between the two receivers. Leigh only typically dropped two back. He'd kick between them, and when it bounced, it'd go left or right. It never went further. Never went dead in goal or close to dead in goal. It bounced left or right. The technique on the kick made sure it was always in field. So he's even improving his kicking game. He's adding technique to it to make sure it's even improving beyond how good he already is with the kicking game, which is just great to see. I also think Warrington competed well through the middle, carried well, defended well. The scramble defence, sometimes this season, defensively we've been awful. But the scramble defence of the weekend was excellent. Lindup, you could see a couple of times, it's looking like it could be a 2-on-1 or even a 3-on-1 on some occasions. They still had a bit of room that ground that Leigh had to make up. But defenders were shifting across with everything they've got to just get across, support a teammate, and just stop opportunities out wide. I think the scramble defence was excellent. I think we'll see a potentially back and forth game very early on. I think there could be a lot of early points. I wouldn't be surprised if Wakefield took the early lead. Maybe as much as 8, 10 or 12 points to start. And then I think it might settle down for a bit. We'll see Warrington chipping away. I think that's what Warrington have been good at doing recently is, yes, we might be conceding early points, but they're chipping away. They'll find something. With this game, I think it's going to be a case of Wakefield with the early pressure, early energy. Possibly the early lead, as I said. Warrington will get into the grind. I think they'll compete well through the middle, which we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. I think the kicking game will just add up and it'll put the receivers under a lot of pressure. And I think we'll just build enough pressure on their own try line. And it'll just take a few moments here and there. I don't think we're putting together full 80-minute performances just yet. But I think there's enough moments in there throughout the game that's either keeping us in it or giving us points, giving us a lead. So I think Early lead for Wakefield. Warrington bring it back. By the end of the game, just get it done. So I'm going to go with Wakefield Trinity 18, Warrington Wolves 22. Finally for this round, we have the Castleford Tigers taking on the Salford Red Devils. I thought Salford's efforts at Magic Weekend, I thought they were brilliant. I think they frustrated Hull Kingston Rovers for a good 15-20 minutes to start the game. I think they frustrated them a bit. And in possession, they created some half chances. So efforts from Salford last time out were brilliant. Now with Cass, they disappointed me massively. You look at the team list that they put out, that is by far and away the biggest forward pack they've had, or the best forward pack they've had all year. And the fact that they had such little control over the game, and such little presence through the middle of the park, disappointed me massively. I was incredibly disappointed with the efforts of Cass. Now, of course, I'm looking at these games and these performances from two completely different levels. You know, we're kind of finding the positives where I can for Salford and judging and criticising Cass because you expect more from them compared to Salford's situation, of course. So I'm looking at them from two completely different levels. Castleford should be coming into this game as the stronger side. I think unless Cass end up with a bunch of major injuries throughout the game, red cards, sin bins, or even Salford able to announce a really strong squad and their biggest forwards are available, Castleford, aside from those reasons, should dominate through the middle. And I don't mean, you know, a few strong carries here and there, whether it be from Amon or from Desiree or Lawler or Westerman. No, I think they should be bullying Salford through the middle of the park. I think that's the minimum. And if they don't, it's really disappointing. I do think Salford can frustrate Cass since they actually aren't afraid to move the ball around. That's one thing we've seen over the past few weeks is that they don't mind chucking it around. Now, of course, a little bit like with what I was saying about Wakefield, they aren't afraid to move the ball around, but it does come with mistakes. And that's because of, you know, you got players like Nicarima. Sometimes I think Nicarima does overplay. I love his intent, by the way. But I think maybe overplays a little bit, or just connections, communication with the young lads on his right-hand side just aren't there yet. Sometimes he's trying to loop the ball over to Wagstaff on the right-hand side, and it's just, you know, he's either out of position or the pass isn't good enough. They're building those connections. They'll get there eventually, I'm sure. But with an extra week of prep, I know Cass have had an extra week as well, but with an extra week of prep to go over more specifics, more details, they could look even stronger offensively this week, and hopefully that's the case. However, I do expect Cass to win the midfield battle, unless, you know, the reasons I mentioned. Castleford also do have the ability to put up decent points in quick succession. They can hit you with a long-range try, build a little bit of pressure, sustain that energy through the middle, and then they'll come up with something soon after. Really quickly after that. They can pile on the points, even if it's just like 2 back-to-back tries, they can pile on those points quickly and change a game. But unfortunately, that's once in a blue moon. The resilience through the middle, the scramble defence, that back-to-back try-scoring situation I mentioned, looking like an actual quality side, it happens once in a blue moon for Cass. Now, if it happens this week, I think we could be looking at a 40 or 50 point range. But based on the averages and the typical performances from Cass, I'm thinking more like the high 20s to low 30s range at the moment. But Salford, final points on them. Again, they aren't afraid to move the ball around. I would hope that by the end of the season, I mentioned this on stream a few weeks back, hopefully by the end of the season, players like Wagstaff or Vaughan, I know he's on loan from Saints and will probably be back at Saints next year, and players like Morgan will hopefully be at first team level by the end of the season. That would be great to see. And hopefully the extra week, they'll have built some decent connections. And I think for now, Salford just putting up points is a bonus for their hard work. But I expect Cass to bully Salford through the middle, dominate, score enough points with the pace they've got in there, the experience, the quality and size in the middle. Cass should be fine with this one. So I'm going to go with Castleford Tigers 30, Salford Red Devils 12. So that's going to be it for this video. If you guys have your own predictions, let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. If you'd like to join another Rugby League forum, there's a Kinetic Rugby League Discord invite link in the description down below, or if you'd like to become a member and support the work that I do for as little as £1 a month, you can do by clicking the join button below this video, and make sure you join the live streams at the weekend. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.